Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to continue looking through this book about great city maps. And normally I would post in my community tab about what cities we should look at next in this book, but tonight I thought I would pick some of the cities that just have one map. So I don't think it's really fair. I think we should let you guys vote on the maps in here, or the cities, I should say, that have like 2, 3, 4, even 5 maps. So we can really take the time to explore those. So what I'm trying to say is we're just going to look at 3 different cities that only have one map each, but really cool nonetheless. I've got them marked on here with my post-its. They're a little wrinkly, they got a little smushed, but they're still there, doing their job. So let's flip this and see the first city we're going to check out tonight. There we go. So first, we are going to look at the city of Bianching in the 12th century. This is by Zhang Zedwan. It's a painting on a scroll, and it's located in the Palace Museum in Beijing, China. And here's how it looks to scale. Here's a person, and here's the scroll. The pieces that you see in the dark are down here. So it's a very long scroll, isn't it? And this map is called Along the River During the Qingming Festival. So let's first read about the map, and then we'll take a little closer look. This elaborate riverscape panorama is thought to be of Bianching, now known as Kaifeng, the capital of the Northern Song dynasty between 960 and 1127, and it probably captures the city during the bustling time of the annual autumnal Qingming festival. It was painted by noted painter and calligrapher Zhang Zedwan, and is regarded as one of Chinese art's great masterpieces. Considerable scholarly controversy surrounds the work, not least around its exact date, although it was probably created shortly before or shortly after the fall of the Northern Song in 1127, due to the absence of certain identifiable features. It has been debated whether it is truly a representation of Bianching, then possibly the largest city in the world, or merely an idealized city. However, the topography of the cityscape and other major features, such as the city gates to the left and the central position of the Rainbow Bridge spanning the Huanghe or Yellow River, does indeed seem to indicate that the scroll shows Bianching. It is also not known whether this image depicts the Qingming festival or merely daily life. What is clear, however, is that Zhang Zedwan populated his enormous work with as much detail of the activities of the city dwellers along the banks of the Huanghe as possible. The artist illustrates the different lifestyles of all levels of Chinese society. More than 800 human figures, only 20 of which are women, 390 buildings, 28 boats, 60 animals, 28 vehicles, and around 170 trees are vividly depicted. Okay, Rooster just got woken up. It sounded very abrupt, so I hope that my landlady's chickens are okay and they're not being attacked by like a raccoon or something, but anyway. Let's check out this map. If Rooster keeps going, then Rooster keeps going. So look at the absolutely stunning details. Look at all the little, there he goes. All the little leaves on the trees. And there is a lot of hustle and bustle happening. It looks like there's some kind of maybe that's a little fish market or something. There's a store right here. We have some carts being pulled. Look at this house with the big balcony with the trees on it. And down here at the river scene. This must be the Rainbow Bridge they were talking about, going over the Yellow River. And it looks like they're building some ships over here. And yeah, just very vivid. So let's check out the next page where it looks a lot more into the details of the map. Let's see. You know, these post-its are kind of loud. They're almost as loud as the rooster. There we go. There we go. Okay, so a visual tour. So up here is the whole long scroll, and it's highlighted certain spots that we're going to look at that are on the scroll. So we're going to start with this piece here, and it's right there on the scroll. It says city streets. Traders, entertainers, travelers, visitors, and merchants of all kinds throng the city streets, passing by dwellings that lie just inside the walls of the city. Yeah, that's what we were looking at before. There we go. Look at all the detail in here, you guys. You can see there's some very, important people being carted in there. There's maybe some kind of food shop there. Oh, this wasn't the one we were looking at before. Look, there's even camels right there. All kinds of hustle and bustle happening all throughout. Oh, that was below the house with the trees on the balcony, I think. Let's see the next one, number 2, the Great Gate, which is, you can tell just to the side here. There's the side of the gate. There it is right there. So let's read about this. It says the action inside the city spills out past the unguarded Great Gate, an impressive masonry structure. Many beasts of burden, including camels, and their owners are shown passing through it on their way to and from the market. Yeah, there's those camels we saw. Lots of camels. Probably coming from the Silk Road, you think? And yes, so many people coming through it. There are no guards up there. It must be a very peaceful day, the market day. Number 3, which is right here on this scroll, is what I noticed before. There we go. The shipbuilding. The scroll is one of the few extant documents that presents accurate depictions of songboats and ships, and even depicts a vessel under construction in a shipyard. It's really cool. It's kind of neat how that kind of looks like what shipyards look like today, making not like giant vessels, but I mean maybe even giant vessels kind of looks like this. Let's see the next one. This is about the Rainbow Bridge. There we go, which is right there on the scroll, pretty much right in the middle. It's an important part of the city, so it goes right in the middle. Let's see what it says. Wooden Rainbow Bridge. The central focus of the painting is the wooden Rainbow Bridge. The central focus. I've got it. Swarming with travelers and tradesmen. An approaching vessel has failed to lower its masts to pass under the bridge and is in danger of collision. Many on the bridge are shouting warnings and lowering ropes to save the crewmen. Let's check this out. So yeah, they're afraid. I can talk. They are. Nope, I just forgot the word I was trying to say. They are feverishly, let's go for that, trying to lower the masts. Frantic. I think that's what I was trying to say. Frantically trying to lower the masts. And it looks like there are people up here watching. And you can't really see what they're lowering ropes, can you? Let's see. Can't see. They're standing over and watching on the side of the bridge there. Maybe this is a rope being lowered. I can't really tell. Oh, look, he's trying to. Yes, that is it. Because he's grabbing the rope. He says, I don't want to drown in the river. And there's even people over here going, watch out, hurry, get out. That's really interesting. Let's see the next box here. River Life, and it's right here in the scroll, further down the river. As the Huanghe meanders past the city and on into the countryside, the scroll depicts myriad merchant vessels, fishing boats, and ferries plying their trade along the river's course. That's awesome. This does look like a much bigger boat than the other one. Looks like they're busy on top there, sailing past on the river. Lots of boats. And lastly, it talks about the surrounding farmland here, which is up here toward this side of the scroll. On the right-hand side of the scroll, rural scenes showing farmers, fields, market gardens, and willow trees indicate a more bucolic way of life. Leaving the frenzied activity of the city behind, the artist returns to the countryside with elegant, classical Chinese renderings of trees draping the downstream banks of the river. I like how he posted how those leaves have been drawn on, because they really do look like little needles, right? Even though they're willow trees, but it's still very pretty. You can see the little farmhouses right there. It's such a pretty piece of art. Very remarkably well done. So detailed. It's almost like a Where's Waldo in a way. Or in other countries it's called Where's Wally. Where there's so much detail and so much hustle and bustle that you can just spend all day looking at everyone's individual faces and seeing what's going on in each scene. Very cool. So that's a really, really interesting map. Let's head on to the next one. Next, we're going to check out Alexandria. I tried to pick 3 cities on 3 different continents, so we did Asia, and now we're going to do Africa. Alexandria in 1575. This map is by Georg Braun and Franz Hogenberg. It's a hand-colored woodcut, and numerous copies exist. And to scale, it's not terribly large. It's probably around the same size as this in the book. And it's titled Map of Alexandria. Let's read about it first. Founded in 331 BCE by Alexander the Great as part of his world-spanning empire, Alexandria in Egypt became an important cultural center of the ancient world, and in the 1st century BCE, it even challenged the might of Rome through the alliance of its queen Cleopatra and the Roman general Mark Antony. Yet by the 16th century, when this map was produced, the city had been toppled by earthquakes, deluged by tidal waves, and depopulated by plague. Alexandria was no longer the beacon of civilization it had once been. The city's few citizens lived among the ancient ruins. This map, included in the 2nd volume of Civitatis Urbis Terrarum, which I'm going to talk about down here, shows just a handful of clustered quarters within the city walls, surrounded by sandy wastes strewn with collapsed arches and broken columns. Sorry, it's freezing in here. I'm trying to keep my hands warm. They're stone cold. Anyway, although the cartographers capture Alexandria's general state of decay, they were less certain in their knowledge of the city's layout. Foreigners were not allowed inside the fortified center, and this led to various errors on the map. The eastern harbor is shown as being much larger than the western harbor. Take a look at that after we read. When the reverse is true, the legendary Pharos is on the wrong side of the entrance to the eastern harbor, and what appears to be a great river flowing into the city was actually a canal. What this map does illustrate is how few Europeans had an accurate knowledge of this once famous city, which was by this time a minor port in the backwaters of the Ottoman Empire. I want to see the errors here. So we have the two harbors here. And this harbor is like way bigger than this harbor, but apparently in real life this harbor is way bigger than this harbor. There's the, or right here, that is, it says right there, the Faroes Lighthouse, which I guess is over here in the harbor. And there's the big river, but it's really a canal. It's not an actual river. I wonder what it says up there. It's probably in German. Let's see. Oops, sorry. Oh, it's in Latin. Very interesting. I just got an echo dot, so I was about to say that out loud, but that would probably be a bad idea. Let's see. Look at all the ships going through. Heading into the harbor. The choppy waters, it looks like. Look at this gigantic camel. Wow. Yeah, that's a building and those are people. That's a very strange map. And it looks like over here you can see all the ruins, but not what's left of the city. Interesting. Let's read about the book that this map was featured in first. Slide it over here. The Civitatis Orbis Terrarum, or Atlas of Cities of the World, is the second oldest printed atlas in the history of world cartography and the first atlas of towns and cities. Its principal creators are editor Georg Braun and engraver Franz Hogenberg. Braun was a Catholic clergyman from Cologne, whose cartographic interest was probably inspired by Cosmographia, a German description of the world, published in 1544. Braun's Civitates can be seen as a companion volume to Theatrum Orbis Terrarum, or Theatre of the World, a collection of country maps published in Antwerp in 1570, and the first true modern atlas. Civitates was published in Cologne in 6 volumes between 1572 and 1617. The complete edition contained 546 maps. The cities covered are almost all in Europe, with a handful from Asia, Africa, and South America. Such a gathering of information in this period represents an extraordinary achievement, and the work was republished many times. Very beautiful cover there too. So let's go to the next page. Let me take this post-it off. It's been scratching the map here. I'm going to remove it real quick. Get it out of the way so it doesn't make any more noise. My goodness. Okay, there. No more noise for post-it. Let's see what's on the next page about it. Visual tour. So there's the map and the little sections that it goes through. So the first one looks like it is up here. Looks like, I think. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Right here. It's the Com El Nadora. Right here. Squeezed between a lake and the sea, Alexandria is almost entirely flat. It has just 2 hills, both of which appear on the map. The hills on the right, topped with what is labeled Newcastle, Castel Nui, represents what the Arabs called Com El Nadora, or Lookout Hill. That's neat. I thought it was a castle, it's just like a tower. Interesting. Here's the Faroes Lighthouse, which on the map is down here. The Faroes Lighthouse, one of the ancient wonders of the world. Otherwise known as the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Faroes was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was badly damaged by a series of earthquakes in the 10th and 14th centuries, and then quarried for stone for a fortress that was built on the same site in 1480. It is this fortress that is depicted on the map rather than the earlier lighthouse, and it is also shown in the wrong location. So this isn't actually a lighthouse, it's a little fortress made out of the stone of the lighthouse. You know, I did a history magazine article about the Pharos Lighthouse, and I learned that that's how we get the Spanish word El Faro for lighthouse, from the Pharos Lighthouse, which is funny because there's a restaurant in San Francisco called El Faro. The best. Oh my gosh. Get like enchiladas there. Oh, so good. Anyway, moving on to the Nile Gate. Ooh. So this is located up here, kind of where the city begins from the continent over there, not on the shore. The Nile Gate, more properly known as the Bab Rashid. The Nile Gate faced in the direction of Rosetta, in Arabic Rashid, a town that lay at the mouth of a branch of the Nile some 40 miles from Alexandria. The waterway shown running through the gate is actually a canal from the Nile, with channels that fed a network of underground cisterns throughout the city. It's pretty cool. A big old Nile River. Or at least a branch of it from a canal. Keeping the city nice and clean. Next we have an obelisk. And this obelisk is located in this corner of the map right there. Let's see what it says about it. 2 obelisks stood in the temple built by Cleopatra to honor her dead lover Julius Caesar. Both monuments survived a tidal wave that submerged the rest of the temple, but one is missing from the map because it was not mentioned in reports. Interesting. And next we have this, the Western Harbor, which, as you remember, was over on the wrong side of the map right there. Oh, it wasn't on the wrong side, that was the lighthouse. It's the wrong size. See what it says about it. The more sheltered of the 2 harbors was reserved for Muslim ships. Access was traditionally controlled by a chain stretched across the harbor mouth. Although on this map a gate is shown, in reality a wide peninsula separated the 2 harbors. Interesting. That's pretty neat how there's a harbor just for Muslims, because it's a Muslim city at this point, the Ottoman Empire. And they're like, welcome, welcome to our harbor. Let's see what we have next. The Tomb of Alexander. Wow. Found it. Let's see what it says about this first. I want to see. The cartographers were familiar with European cities and their convention of having a central church or cathedral, and this may be why they depicted Alexandria with a grand central mosque drawn to look like a church when no such thing existed. A second church-like building is also imagined labeled Domus Alexandriae Magni, or the House of Alexander the Great, which is presumably supposed to be the Greek emperor's tomb. So the tomb of Alexander has been lost, and it's pretty impossible to try to recover it because the modern city of Alexandria sits above the ancient city of Alexandria. So they would literally have to demolish buildings to even try to find it, so it's pretty much lost to history, but these cartographers found it. They found it in this giant building here, next to this giant church-like mosque, but it is a very pretty mosque. They imagined a very nice one. It's still got the domes and the minarets here, little crescent moons on top representing Islam, but this building doesn't exist. Isn't that funny? They took a lot of licenses with this map. And let's see the last one over here. This is Pompeii's Pillar. And this is located up in the corner of the map up here. Here's where the magic mosque one of the few monuments of antiquity still standing in Alexandria. This was a Roman-era triumphal column commemorating the victory of the Emperor Diocletian over an Alexandrian revolt. It was one of the largest of its type, constructed outside of the imperial capitals of Constantinople and Rome. It is the only element on this map that still survives intact today. That's awesome. And you can still go and see this pillar. That's really cool. Let's read a little bit more about the context of this map down here. In context, in 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte landed a French army at Alexandria that would occupy Egypt until 1801, when it was defeated by British forces. In addition to the soldiers, the French force consisted of some 160 civilian scholars and scientists, whose mission was to record all aspects of the country. They examined, measured, wrote about, and sketched everything from ancient temples to wildlife and farming implements to the physical characteristics of the locals. All of this information was carried back to France, collated, and eventually published in a series of volumes collectively known as the Description de l'Égypte. The first volume appeared in 1809, and the final one appeared in 1829. The work included one whole volume devoted to maps. The map of Alexandria shows a twin perimeter of city walls enclosed little but wasteland. Settlement had shrunk to a small area of ragged and irregular buildings and maze-like alleys squeezed between the two harbors. Here's Napoleon's map of Alexandria, the two harbors there, the city right here. Very cool. Alright, our last city tonight, if I can pull it up correctly with this loud post-it note, is going to be Stockholm. This is a map of Stockholm from 1805. It's by Carl Fredrik Akerell. It's an engraving and it's located in the Stockholm City Museum. Now I wonder why it says the scale is unknown. That's weird. Let's read about the map of Stockholm. This beautiful and unusual oval map, engraved by Carl Fredrik Akerell and published in 1805, places the island of Gamlestan at its center. The position of the island reflects its status as the birthplace of Stockholm. It is where a first mighty fortress was constructed in 1252 to guard the gateway from the Baltic Sea to the trade routes of Lake Mälaren. In the following centuries, the capital city of Sweden expanded north across the Norrstrom waterway to create the district of Norrmalm, and south across the Söderstrom to create Södermalm. During the reign of King Gustav II Adolf, these areas eventually developed along the rectilinear street plan that is highlighted in red on this map. This guy was wild. I may have to do a whole video on this guy someday. He was a very interesting person in history. The city grew little over the next 2 centuries, and it was ravaged by fire and disease, including a plague in 1710 that killed about a third of its population. Sweden was defeated in several wars, ceding territories to Prussia and in particular Russia, and the country was no longer the great northern European power it had been. However, at the dawn of the 19th century, when this map was created, Stockholm was emerging from its state of stagnation. Already, a few notable developments had been sponsored by King Gustav III Adolf, who had created Gustav Adolf Square and inaugurated a royal opera there in 1782, both on this map. The advent of industrialization, let me get this cat hair off my sleeve. The advent of industrialization would more than quadruple Stockholm's population in the coming century, making this 1805 map a snapshot of a city on the cusp of inexorable change. So I don't think that there's a second page about it going in detail. Let me get this posted off. I think this map has only the one page for it. So let me put this aside. Let me double check. Yeah, it's just this. Okay. So let's look around and see what we have here on this map. We have the title up here, Stockholm. It says here, the Royal Swedish Opera next to Gustav Adolf Square. Oh, right here, theater, there's Gustav Adolf Square. Over here, the island there is the town of Gamlestaden, or the old town. Oops, can you see? There we go. It's a big map. Gamlestaden. And over here, it says that we have the Baltic Sea Bay of Saltsjön. Saltsjön. Help me on Swedish here. Swedish is so difficult. And over here we have the district of Södermalm. Over here we have the freshwater lake Mälaren. And up here it says we have the island of Kungsholmen. Stockholm, if you don't know. I mean, I've already covered Sweden on my series, but the city of Stockholm is pretty much just like a bunch of islands all together with bridges connecting them. It's a very beautiful city. So in red here was all the new parts that Gustav Adolf III had helped build, right? Is that what it said? Yeah, the dawn of the 19th century, 1805, when this map was made. So let's read about the map maker over here in this box. This is Carl Frederick Akerell, 1779 to 1868. He had quite a mustache, quite a lot of eyebrows too, but not a lot of hair on top of his head, just on his face. While still in his teens, Akerell placed his skills as a map maker at the service of the Swedish military. He most probably owed his prodigious cartographic talent to his father, who was also an engraver. I promise I can read you guys. Akerell's map of Stockholm was drawn in the years 1802 to 03, when he was barely in his 20s, and this version was published in 1805. Working as an army surveyor and cartographer, Akerell eventually reached the rank of lieutenant general, and also became the first director of the Swedish Topographical Corps. He made a fascinating and historically valuable set of engravings based on sketches taken by a Swedish naval officer, Axel Leonhard Klinkhaustrom, on a tour of the United States in 1818 to 1820. Akerell also produced many more maps and charts, though perhaps not as notable as his early work on Stockholm. Awesome, so that's going to be it for tonight. Oops. It's still making a mess with this big book, even though the post-its are off. So next time we dive into this book, I'll leave a poll on my community tab asking what kind of cities you want to look at. Something with a lot of maps, like for New York City or London or something exciting like that. I can't wait. This book is so cool. Thank you again for watching. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good